to the Exchange Place podcast, y'all. Hey, y'all. It is your host, Deborah Faith, and I am here with Amber Juice Girl Dixon. Hello, hello, hello. So I thought I wanted to give the audience a little bit of explanation
Okay.
of this upcoming month. We are in June.
Yes.
And I think we did this series in the first realm of the healing season. I don't think we touched it last season, and I almost didn't touch it this season. But this June month, I love to honor my dad, who's no longer here, who
Right.
I lost almost 7 years ago to cancer, 7 years in August. This month, of course, is Father's Day. It is his birthday. It is also my grandfather's birthday. So I thought this would be a great series to actually
Okay.
do. And having a conversation with my coach. Shout out to Dr. Zeb.
Dr. Zeb is that guy.
He really is that guy. He really is that guy. And I hope he hears
Yeah.
this to know. And he's actually coming on the
So
show.
excited about
So,
that. I saw that.
um, but he said something in our session and in other sessions that I've heard him say was replacing grief with gratitude. And I really started thinking about that because I think so often June is such a hard month for me because there is whether I like it or not, and everybody grieves differently. It is just a reminder that my dad's not here. And so I thought that I would honor the men that I do have in my life. Those who are near or far to me. So those who are coaches, and actually I have one-on-one interactions with them, and just people I've been able to glean from over these last 7 years, and some people even more than that, who are part of my life and in my life. And I can't have
Right.
everybody this one, but it's gonna be some dope people coming
Yeah.
through, and it's
I
gonna
love
be a
the
little
lineup.
bit
I'm
different.
loving the lineup.
Yeah. So I thought it'd be cool for me to sit in a hot seat because I know, right? I'm always asking questions to everybody, but I thought it'd be nice to give people really understanding of some background with my dad. I kind of always mention him, but I don't know that we've ever really talked. I mean, we've talked about it, of course, but I don't know that I've shared that. So I thought it would be a blessing because I know, again, in every holiday, whether it's Mother's Day or Thanksgiving or Father's Day, like there is this celebration, but there are people who are not celebrating.
Yeah. Your
And
June is
I
my
want to,
May. Yeah.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
lot. It's
And I know
loaded. My mom's
it's
birthday, it's
loaded.
Mother's Day, my parents' wedding anniversary. It's a loaded month. But
Yeah,
I like what Dr. Zeb said about replacement with gratitude. I always just try to find the happiness. My niece is actually born 3 days after my mom in that month. So, something you can find
yeah,
joy in.
yeah. And I love that. And I told you, I think probably a couple years back that I really wanted to learn how to honor him, and find ways to honor him more. So this is just one of those ways, that I'm gonna honor
Mhm.
him. And I literally told my dad on his deathbed that, he would live in and through me, and I've made good on that. So, I'm gonna turn the helm over to you. I thought it'd be, informational. And I just pray it helps somebody because I know a grief. I've had a lot of
Yeah.
grief. I've lost a lot of people. And when I looked at that, it was a tremendous amount of men
Mhm.
that I've lost. So the floor is
Okay.
yours.
Well, I have the questions that all the people want to know. But I do love what you said about your dad and honoring your dad. And I do think that you do a great job of actually giving us a small lens at least of who he is. But my first question, because I know that you have a heart even for men, and their healing journey and their expression and them being heard and their voices. But obviously to have that type of passion for a man, it comes from somewhere, right? So the first question I would like to just ask you, just generally, is like, who was Mr. Perry?
That's a loaded question. Oh, that's a loaded question.
And do it as best as
I
you can for the listeners to have a just to picture who this man is, so it gives us some insight on what drives this passion.
yeah. So I think it's layered, if I'm honest. I think part of my passion for men definitely comes from my dad, amongst other men that I've seen, but especially my dad, because though I love him, still, even with him not being on this earth, I really believe his story was such a transitional
Mhm.
one, because the person that I knew as a young girl was not the person who left
Mhm.
here. And I love that about
Mhm.
him. I love his imperfections because I think so often we have these high standards, especially on men. I mean, on everybody, but I think Black men especially have this thing attached to them of they have to be perfect. And my dad was not
Mhm.
perfect. He was like perfectly imperfect, but I love his recovery story. I love that he was not perfect, but he was able to deal with some of the things that he dealt with, maybe not in the traditional ways that we do it now, therapy and all of
Mhm.
that. But I do love that he was able to become what he was, not only to me but to my children, to the neighborhood. Like Mr. Perry, which everybody called him, you could always find on at 1046 Grove Street sitting on the
Mhm.
porch. He was the neighborhood
Mhm.
watchman, literally. he was he was able to tell you people's license plate. He knew what was going on from down the street all the way, you know what I mean? He watched out for everybody. He was I don't want to say tough on people, but he didn't play at the same time, but he also would open his home to
Yeah, so he
anybody.
was
So I
like the
feel
neighborhood dad.
he was, to a certain extent, like he was. I mean, my parents in general were that. Like my house was
Mhm.
that. My house was one that was always
Mhm.
full. For most people that they know, I have an older brother who's 6 years older than me. I had two sisters who I lost. An older sister who was 2 years older than me, who I never really knew. For the most part, she passed away in the interim of me being
Mhm.
born. And then my younger sister, who died in my arms. And after they were gone, I never went without brothers and sisters. I guess I can say, like, I have tons of brothers, tons of sisters. Our house was, if I showed you guys pictures, it literally was the steps was filled from the top of the porch to the
Mhm.
bottom, almost where some of my girlfriends, their moms like, you can't
Oh,
go over
not
there
all
because
them
it's too many
boys.
boys, there's too many people. Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah. And my dad was, when I say he was the watchman, he was always in the window watching everything. If he wasn't on the porch, he just knew everything that was going
Mhm.
on. He bought the kids in the neighborhood clothes who didn't have stuff. He just, you know what I'm saying? He was that guy. He was hilarious. He was hilarious. He was also like an amazing cook later on in his life. I think he was always a cook, but when I was younger, he worked all the
Mhm.
time. But as he got older, he just, that was his thing. He was the person on Saturday morning when my phone rang at a early morning. I knew it was him, and it'd be like, "Baby girl, what y'all want for
I
Sunday
love that.
dinner?" He was the orchestrator of that, and my mom also cooked. So it was like they would go grocery shopping on
Mhm.
Saturday because Sunday everybody and their mother was coming over, and like our house was one that was like an open house
Mhm.
policy. Like most of the time the door wasn't locked. Like people would
I
just
love that.
come in, come over. It's Sunday. We know they cooking. We know we coming to watch the game, get a plate of food. Um, yeah, he was a hard worker. Our ongoing joke for him is, do you know what's the kids movie Up?
Mhm. Mhm.
the old
Yeah.
guy who keep going to the store and watching. That is my brother, me and my brother's joke because that was
I
my
love
dad.
that.
That's literally my
Mhm.
dad. He wasn't necessarily so funny because people are like, my dad definitely knew the Lord, in the way, in the manner that he expressed that was not necessarily church. He only really went to church on
Sure.
it was like funeral or something
Oh.
happened, right?
Okay.
But you could find him in his room upstairs. I set up his computer for him. He's always listening to the Canton spirituals, listening, you know what I mean? So he was like, he was like a gentle giant later on in life. Like I feel like he got peace in just life, and it's like I had very good understanding, especially at the end of his life. I had 18 months with him of, the why behind who he was and the transitions and the things that, at times in my life, honestly, I saw as like, what? You know what I mean? It was ugly or it was stuff that I didn't agree with. But to get understanding allows you to give people grace
Mhm.
in spaces that, I think we don't often do.
Mhm. I love that. I think that paints like a beautiful picture also of who he is. I think knowing you on a personal level and even people who don't know you as personal as I know you, I think even just that part speaks to like how open, like how welcoming you are towards people, how loving you are towards people. So thank you. God bless Mr. Perry. God rest his soul.
Yeah.
Um, I guess another question I think the listeners will want to know is, how does your dad's life, right, reflect you as a person and the work that you're doing?
That's a good one.
Because we're
I
talking
would say
about
his
men,
life.
men's voices or whatever. You definitely want to honor men in this month. Even though he's a man and you're a woman, I do think it's very possible that we take things right from people.
Oh no, I'm my
I'm
dad
my
all
dad
over
too,
again.
in some ways.
I So I think it's probably a beautiful sad story because I know that me watching my dad leave here changed the trajectory of my
Mm.
life because I really felt like I was watching myself die.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I know that, you know what I mean? My dad was really sacrificial. It looked different because I definitely like my dad wasn't a huggy, necessarily emotional. I'm an emotional being in
Very.
general.
We're gonna
He
cry when
wasn't.
we hang up today.
We gonna cry after this. I already cried before it, so I'm good now. So my dad wasn't really like he wasn't a hugger necessarily. He wasn't like a very um touchy or emotional
Mhm.
person in that sense of things. Um, he was very logical and analytical, so I definitely have that. He also was, when I say sacrificial, watching him die was like a reflection of where I would end up in those spaces. Like I was so, and you know this, I love my
Mhm.
children. I really, really
Mhm.
do. And I know all people say that, but like I think at a point I loved them to a place that could have become a detrimental place
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
me. Um, and there's stuff behind that we'll talk about later on, but and there was a reason for that. But the overcompensating for loving them, working all the time, my focus was so on it definitely wasn't on purpose. It was on making as much money as possible, giving them and though the intention was the right intention, as we all do, we all want to do, we want our kids to have more than we have. We want to show them more and all of that. But I think in that, I forgot about
Mhm.
me. And the one thing that I remember one day taking my dad I would take him to chemo and radiation, and we had gone to radiation, and chemo's the longer process, and I would sit there and I had the ability to work in there. And I remember just watching him with his chemo, and I was kind of on my laptop, And he's like, "Man, I just thought I had time."
Mhm.
And I was like, "What do you mean, like time?" And he's just like, my dad was he was a hunter, he was a fisher, he's a country boy from North Carolina.
I love that.
So he was like, I thought I had time, and my dad didn't retire until he was sick.
Mhm.
So he was still working every morning at 4 something. He was out to be to be at his job at
Wow.
5. He was just, he never missed a day. Like
Wow.
he was like dedicated to a place that ended up actually adding to, him having cancer.
Wow.
So it just was, he was a welder.
Mm.
So he never got to do the things that we all plan to do. And I know we often say, right, when the kids get
Mhm.
bigger, when I'm in a better financial
Mhm.
place. And my dad's death taught me that
To do it
tomorrow,
now.
and not even
Mhm.
today, is
Yeah.
promised. So it gave me a different, in my head, I was like, oh, when DJ gets to this age and Jaden gets to this age, and the truth be told, and this, right? There's always going to be something
Yes.
happening. There's always
God
going to be
knows.
something
Yes.
happening.
You'll never
I'm
be
transitioning
100%
now.
ready for anything in my opinion.
Never,
Yeah. Mhm.
never, ever. So I feel like he died full in certain capacities of like things that he didn't get to
Mhm.
try, or places that he didn't get to go. And I know we don't get to do everything that we want, but it's no reason that he shouldn't have been
Right.
fishing. You know what I mean? It's no reason that he shouldn't have been spending time with his
Right.
homeboys, when they sit out like, "Hey there, boy." You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I hate that he was in a position that by the time he realized what he said to me, he couldn't do any of
Yeah.
that. You know what
Wow.
I mean? And like for me, it was like, I'm going to make sure that that's not me. Like I just, you know what I mean? And I think in people's death, we learn from them. We learn what to do in some cases, and we also learn what
I
not
can
to do.
attest
And
to
though,
that. Yeah, with my mom.
yeah,
Mhm.
though I took a lot from him of what to
Yeah.
do, I also took a lot from
Not
him of
to.
what not to
Mhm.
do.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really like what it's all about, and that's what life is about, discovering. And honestly, I think in those moments, they hope that that teaches us that very thing. So I think you're doing an amazing job at leaving the world empty, as you would say, because you really just can't take it all with you. And there's no better way to honor anybody but to change what someone actually couldn't do. So I think that's phenomenal. I do see, because I am a follower on your Instagram page. I'm a follower of everything, but I do see that you have an amazing lineup of great men that are great leaders from all different types of background coming through this month. I am eager as heck to see like the different perspectives, because I think I follow about all of them that you're going to be putting up, and these are definitely quality men who have something great to say. And I love all of their transparency, and I love the different backgrounds that they come from. Can you tell us about that? Like, who are some of the people that you'll be having and featuring this month, and some of the things that you guys want to make sure that you accomplish in this month?
Yeah. So the people that are coming through are intentional, and I'll share some names that are coming through, but definitely intentional. So outside of what I was saying earlier, like outside of losing my
Mhm.
dad, I also lost my grandfather very young, who was,
Mhm.
a pivotal part of just who I am as a person. I lost my first pastor,
Mhm.
who was a spiritual dad to me,
Mhm.
who Reverend Ron Christian, for the time that I'm on this earth, he will also be in my mouth. So I thought, what better way, again, grief to gratitude, to really honor these people who are in my life, who are either coaching me, in some form of fashion, and or just people I glean from that I've sat in a class with them or been able I follow them and I just think what they're doing is
Mhm.
amazing. So first and foremost, we got Dr. Zeb
My
coming through.
boy, that's gonna be
um
amazing.
that's my
Oh,
boy.
he has the
I
best
feel like I
analogies I've ever seen. And like
ever
his
ever
stories
like
are so impactful.
I think next to, I can't, I haven't been able to, I don't want to say I can't because I don't want to put that into the atmosphere, but I have yet to be able to get Dr. Darius Daniels, who is someone who
So
I glean
amazing.
from often,
Such an
who is my
amazing guy.
pastor, my
Love him.
mentor, um, who is just, I mean, I
So
would not
wise.
be the
So
person.
wise.
Yeah, he is one of the greatest
Mhm.
communicators, right? But I stumbled upon, and I love to say I stumbled upon Dr. Zeb. I think that he is also one of the greatest communicators who is just able, like you said, the analogy king,
His
like the
analogies are
person
amazing.
who like puts my pieces together where I'm just
He's like, you
like,
ever said da 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 da
okay,
da da da? It's tempo. He's just like that guy, man. His tempo. He's just
he's that
awesome. He's really
guy.
that guy.
He's a
Hmm.
coach. Of course, he's Dr.
Hmm.
Zeb, hence. He's been amazing and he hasn't been a part of my life as
Hmm.
long, but he's been super
Impactful.
duper
Hmm.
impactful in the time that he's been there. So he's coming
Oh,
through. Y'all go and
oh,
follow
you
him. I
gonna
think
y'all
he's
gonna love Dr. Zeb.
yeah, I think he's at Zeb Tally the
Hmm.
third. Y'all will find him, follow him. If not, come to my
Yeah.
page because I definitely have him
Hmm.
up. We have Adrian Davis coming through,
Amazing.
who
Nice. That's a
is
good one for the culture
amazing.
too. Great guy.
I love
Well
it.
dressed.
Yeah,
Well spoken. Like
yeah.
I
Well
like him.
spoken. I connected with him on the grief
Hmm.
level. So he's had a tremendous amount of loss
Wow.
within his life. He does amazing work. He's a podcaster, just a
Yeah.
trailblazer at the end of
He's
the day.
dope.
Y'all, he
Dope
about to
dude.
come shut it down.
Hmm.
He's gonna come shut it down. Who else we got? We have Joseph Wilson, he's also a
Hmm.
podcaster. Love
Yeah.
Unscripted. Somebody else I kind of feel like we just kind of stumbled into each other. Who has a tremendous platform doing some amazing things. So I think we're gonna talk about a little
Love.
love in there. Yeah, I wanted to I don't want this to be a sad month. I want
No,
this
it's
to
gonna
be a
be great.
well-rounded.
I don't get sadness from
Yeah,
any of these people.
none of
They're
them.
all
None of them.
positive, all like progressive thinkers that change the narrative. So I'm down. I can't wait.
Yeah, I also have my other coach, Laquan Holden,
Oh,
Pastor
Pastor
LQ,
Laquan. Oh,
who
such
I
an
love.
amazing guy, man. He's so mild mannered. When you see him in person, he's just nice and just so accommodating. Very nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate him. He's also analogy king
Yeah.
too. Such a great thinker, an amazing
He can pray
coach.
too.
Um, yeah, just a really good he's been a really good friend. He's really supported me in my
Yeah, he
evolution
has.
of becoming, and he's just been amazing. So I can't wait. He's a lot of times behind the
Mhm,
scenes, but I can't wait to like put the spotlight on
mhm,
him.
mhm.
Who else? My other coach. I got a lot of I
Oh,
got a
look
lot of
at
coaches,
this. So
y'all.
amazing.
I got a lot of coaches. Darius McClure is coming
What?
through.
Love Darius McClure. He's another one. He's great at putting a good story together, and he's a really
Yeah,
good
he
presenter.
is my healing coach.
Mhm.
Yeah, so he has a healing academy that I probably talked about a little bit on the show that I went through. Him and his wife are
I love
amazing.
that.
I
Yeah,
mean,
they are. They just
they're
celebrated an
doing some
anniversary. I
amazing
saw.
things. Yeah, they did. Happy anniversary,
Yes, I
y'all.
love that.
Um, I have, of course, our faves coming through. I got Coach Q coming
Woo
through.
woo! Love me
So
some
we bring
Q.
y'all know Coach
That's my
Q.
boy.
We bringing him back to
Oh,
drop
miss
something.
him.
We think Ish might slide through
Oh,
too. I think so. I think
ooh,
so.
I
It's
like
not
this.
yeah. Y'all gonna get a lot of episodes this month.
Right.
Way more than
No,
way
I think
more.
it's needed. I mean, even in we know right now, even our pastor is in a theme right now where he's addressing men. Um, And I think it's just so important too, especially like, and this again is for people who are looking for something outside of the shade room, spiritual word, the culture, and because the culture is in crisis. That's just my opinion. Like
I love that.
I just feel like, I'm not speaking from a judgmental point, y'all. This year I just unfollowed the shade room, spiritual word, gossip blogs, all of these type of things, because in my personal journey I just realized that it's it's not progressive thinking. It's not gonna help me bridge the gap to love. And it's so crazy because I feel like since I did that, I actually met someone who like is amazing, and it kind of really changed like my narrative.
Okay,
Don't. But like the culture is in crisis, and I feel like this segment, especially for you, and even what we have Darius Daniels is addressing, if anybody wants to go on tune into that
please
manology
do.
series, it's cracking culture, it's cracking all of these myths, these ideologies, these city girl thoughts, these city boy thoughts, and it's just getting to where we need to really like address what the crisis is and bridging the gap between men and women. And also it's just kind of like, I feel like with the growth of podcasts or whatever, men do are getting more voice, and they're able to express themselves more. But we want to express ourselves, I think, in a healthy and more intentional way. And what better way to do that but have healthy, intentional, whole people actually talk about the things or whatever? Because if we know it, and no different than what Pastor Darius said the other day, men don't follow men they can't trust, or they
Yeah.
who, like, you know what I mean? So we need this is beautiful. Like, this is more of what I like to see on larger platforms. These are the things, if it's gonna make a shade room, that should, you know what I'm saying? So I love that you're having these amazing, amazing men. I hope that it touches mass amounts of people. When we start the series, we as in them.
No. Didn't we have this conversation already?
Yes.
We had this, and they don't know. Most people probably don't know this because I think we said it on a
Yeah.
live. And you were like, "This is Deb's show," but she just keeps saying
Yeah. It is for us
we. It's
though.
not, but it is for
It is.
everybody. And I always like when God gave me this vision, it's just so much bigger than
Yeah.
me that He trusted me with it. So it to an extent it belongs to me in the sense of creation, but it was a God given thing and it belongs to Him. So it is a we thing, and I will second what you said. The part of the exchange place that wants to bridge the gap, I really see this segment being a
Yeah.
thing as we grow and as we are not moving from Jersey. I want to be clear with that because everybody's like, "Oh, I'm moving." So no, the show is still in Jersey, so you'll get all your Jersey
Yeah.
faves. You're just gonna get an addition to that in Atlanta, and I really hope to have a panel of
Yeah.
this where we can bring them out and put them in a safe place where women can come and listen. So now I feel like there's such like I love the terminology, the culture is in
Yeah.
crisis. I think that is a very relevant term. We are not listening to one another. There's this whole thing about who's high valued and what people need and what people are bringing to the table. And though
Everybody's talking, but nobody's listening.
nobody's
Mm-hmm.
listening. Nobody's really listening, and I think where there's misunderstanding, there's always going to be confusion. There's and where people are not willing to have open hearts and open ears to get like, "Oh, I never thought about that." And just to bring that full circle, right? I talked about earlier about my dad. There were things in my childhood that I did not like, you know what I mean? That I would be like, I wouldn't have picked that for myself, right? And I remember distinctly having a conversation. The boys were probably, I know Jaden was a baby. DJ was probably about 5 or 6 years
Mm-hmm.
old. And I remember having a conversation, a very hard, intentional conversation with my dad. And it's one of the best things that I ever did. It was, I'm sure for him, it was uncomfortable. I hate, these are the moments that I hate that he's not here. Right. Cause that part, I never got his side of what that did, but I know what it did for me. I know it opened me up to
Mhm.
listen to what he had endured as a
Right.
child. It gave me the reality check of like, not that some of the things that he did were
Mhm.
correct. Not that he didn't, know that they were wrong. It's just like he didn't know anything else in certain
Mhm.
areas, right? So like we have this thing with parents and not just men, but definitely with parents in general that we
Mhm.
assume that okay, you're ready to have children, like you know how to
Yeah.
parent. While most of us are parenting how we were
I'm still
parented.
winging it.
Child,
Every day.
I think I'm doing a better job. I think so. But I think in that we don't know and we negate that. Like parents are still growing
Yeah.
too. I'm still growing.
Every
You're
day.
still growing. Think
Mhm.
about the changes that we've gone through in these last couple of years,
Mhm.
right? As people, which reflects us as parents, right? So it's like I think sometimes we're so stuck on where people were. I think that's why people are always like, why are you so, not forgiving to people? Because first of all, I don't get it right
I
all the
know.
time. I
Oh
don't.
God.
I
I know.
don't. And there have been people throughout my life, especially my children, who have had grace for
Yeah.
me in that, right? It's like, so on the relationship side, we have to have grace. We cannot hold people accountable who aren't the people. We can't be so hurt. If you that hurt, you need to get help. And it's okay. I've been there. Trust me. I know what it is. I get you. I feel you. But that is not every
No.
man.
Mhm.
It's not. It's not. You know what I mean? And I'm clear about that. It's not like oh, well, you're single. So no, it's not that. I'm focused right now, and when he come, he gonna have to, he gonna have to
Oh,
show
he
up,
will.
show up.
He will. And will. And
Yeah, it's gonna have to be clear and concise
yeah,
because we got work
for
to do.
sure. Stoked about this series. I'm gonna invite as many people as I can. I invite the listeners to invite your brothers, your boo, your uncles, your dads, your whomever, so that they can hear like everything that's going on. My last question is just like, what do you hope to accomplish in this series?
Oh, that's easy. I hope that people start having conversations, the uncomfortable ones. I think men are not talking to men a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, and a lot of times definitely not talking to women about their real true feelings. So I pray that it opens up a more vulnerable, transparent
Mm-hmm.
place that they know it's safe, that they can come into and not be
Mm-hmm.
attacked and be listened to and try to get some understanding of one another and kind of bridge the gap. I'm hoping that people start to
Yeah.
heal and start that healing journey, healing process if they have yet to walk down that
My
path.
hope is also that, with the people that are coming on the show, a lot of them are professionals and licensed coaches. And I pray that
Mhm.
um, if you hadn't never seen a coach or that you felt was relatable to you, that you consider, like, you know what I'm saying, that it's considered to even, do the work with these people beyond the show. So that's my hope or whatever. I know I asked you yours, but that's
Yeah.
definitely my hope. What comes from
I
the
think
series.
that's a good
Yeah.
one. I do hope for the coaches that are coming on, especially I mean, there's so much. I was about to say Dr.
Mhm.
Zeb or I know he's doing group work, which is a tremendous thing of group
Mhm.
therapy.
His group work session
I
was
know
the bomb too.
I'm attending
Mhm.
this month because I missed the one. I was doing something
This
for another
last one
thing for
was really,
grief,
really
but
good.
yeah, but also the Healing Academy blessed me. That was a tremendous thing. Like I've done, y'all. When I get up here and I'm talking about healing, I am not talking about nothing that I'm
Mhm.
not doing myself. I'm not suggesting anything, and I hate to talk about anything that I really don't know anything about. And it has not been easy. I will say that, but it's been worth it. Like I wake up every morning like, how did I get here? You know what I mean? Like to the level of discipline, whether it's Daniel's Den with PD, whether it's the Healing Academy, whether it's coaching, like I've just grown such, like I feel like I had, well, as Pastor would say, quantum leaps over these last 3 years that I could not even, that's all I can attribute it to, is like really doing
Mm-hmm.
the work and really getting in there. Dr. Zeb said something to me, and I'll mention this as far as the men that we're talking about dating and love. And he's like, a lot of men are not doing the work. And I wonder why that is, because I don't think people are without self awareness. I think it comes down to, I don't want to say how I feel because I'm going to get attacked for how I feel. We have in culture this, oh, men don't hurt
Yeah.
and they shouldn't hurt or show emotions and toughen up and be a man. And we have all these crazy things that we've been taught since we were younger. And it's like, no, that's not it. Like, you are allowed to
Mm-hmm.
feel. You are allowed to feel. And I really want men to walk away with a different perspective, from men who have done the process, who are in the process, who, have fallen down and gotten back up from the process. And I want the reflection of this series to honestly be, I always say, I want people to have
Yeah.
mirrors of where they may
Mm-hmm.
be, but also windows of where it's possible
Yeah.
to go. So I pray that all of the sessions are that, that they are, they're mirrors of where they may be. And then also, in the next episode, they get a window of like, yeah, I want that. Like what that man has, I want to be there. So I'm
Yeah.
excited.
I'm
I'm
excited
also
too.
excited that this month, in honor of my dad, I'm also dropping my journal on his birthday. Thank
Yes.
God is going to be
I love
pre-sale. So
that.
that's even
Congratulations
more.
on that. So exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I really, there are a lot of things that I've done over my healing journey that I put in there. There's some of the story of just, what I have endured throughout life as well. But yeah, I think it's going to be one of those things that helps. I wrote it for people like me, you know what I mean? And that was male or female, but people who have suffered in silence and been able to look amazing on the outside for a long
Mm-hmm.
time with dealing with so much internally. And I always tell people, you are going to come by will, or you're going to come by, listen, I don't know what else to do. So some people get the therapy like, yeah, I'm seeking therapy. Other people get the therapy like, I done tried everything else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's exciting. I love this. I'm always rooting for you. You'll be proud of me. I actually
thank you.
journaled last week when I was having, like, remember that day that I told you I was just having a day? I think the next
Mm-hmm.
day I just journaled about how I was feeling because I just knew I felt like really outside of myself.
Yeah.
And I can't even tell you where it came from. I just felt overwhelmed emotionally, and it wasn't because a lot
Yeah.
of bad things were coming. It's just I have a lot of life changes coming up now. That it's not like I'm not devastated about them. I just think it's a lot. It's just fast. It's
It's a
rapid.
lot
It's like
going
a lot
on.
is going on in my life, and it's very rapid. And it's very some is unexpected and some is just like preparation. So and the time just
Yeah.
seems to be like really on, you know what I
I
mean? So
understand. Yeah. I think the misconception is always going to be like, of course, I'm having tremendous
mhm.
changes, and even though a lot
They're
of them
heavy,
are
just like,
amazing,
ooh, it's still a lot.
it's
Mhm.
amazing. It's just a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot. It's a lot going on at once, and there's always the backside of the
Mhm.
blessing. In that there is, you know, the great part
Mhm.
of it, but with that, there are also things that you have to manage more. It's like, more exposure means you don't have as much
Mhm.
time, it's like, so you got to manage time
Yep.
better. I mean, it's all different things, but I love that you're
Yeah.
journaling. I think
Once I get your turn, I'm
honestly
a
for
journal for
me,
real.
No, that's definitely, definitely. But I do think I'm also audio journal.
Yeah.
There's an application called One
Mhm.
Day that if anybody's looking for that, I love that because sometimes I have busy
Mhm.
days where I'm up at the crack of dawn. I got a flight to catch tomorrow at 6
That's
a.m.
a good
So
one. I
I'm
think I
probably
might do
not
that
gonna
because I
be.
love audiobooks. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and you can talk. It writes out what you talk. You know, I love voice
Mhm.
notes, so it
It's
writes
a
out
voice
what
note.
what you.
Queen.
So but it's a way for me to journal when I can't necessarily journal
Yes.
like that. I mean, I got tons of journals if I, actual physical, you know what I mean, journals as well. But that for me has been, I feel like, the key to me being more consistent. And of course, we all got to figure out how to hack ourselves, like what works best for you. But for me, I have a regular journal. I usually have a book journal of whatever book I'm reading to kind of like talk through my thoughts on that. And then I have my husband's journal.
Yes.
We'll talk about that another time.
I
But
mean, we're
yeah.
in men's month.
We'll talk about that one. We'll talk about that another time.
That's wonderful. I mean, I love it. I love everything that you touched on, everything that you said, of course, as your friend, but just even not just a friend, as a fan of the show as well. I'm super excited. I love the evolution. I love the growth. I love the connections that you've made throughout the journey so that you can have this space of incredible people to come on and not just speak from, not, and this is no disrespect when I say this, not just speak because you lived it, but speak through a professional lens, a spiritual lens, a wise lens. I think this is going to be
Yeah.
amazing. This may be one of your best seasons yet. I do see the seasons just getting better and better. So I think this month, though, is going to be pivotal. And like I said to the listeners, invite your brothers, your cousins, Ray, he needs to hear good word.
Come through, Ray and them on the corner.
Everybody, anybody,
Listen,
anybody who can just receive. But more so to people who really do want it, who are hungry for intention, who are hungry for something real. Um, invite them. I mean,
and
healthy.
healthy, and
Hmm.
healthy,
And don't get me
healthy,
wrong,
like
they don't have to
healthy.
show up here healthy. They just gotta show up to get healthy. That's it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I love that. I think the desire to even be healthy
It's
is a
healthy.
healthy. I
Yes.
think that's a healthy place. I really do. I think the at the place there's a scripture that says you are blessed at the end of the road because there's less of you and more
Yep.
of God. And I love that scripture because it kind of speaks to you not having anything else to give out of your physicalities and your dependency really being on the Lord. So I love that what you said because it's like, yeah, if I even want help, if I've gotten to the point where I'm like, listen, I done tried drinking, and I ain't saying that drinking is bad, but it is when it's
Yeah.
your
The
method of
distal thing,
coping,
yeah.
right? Yeah, it is bad when you cope that way, and we all have coped different ways. I only want to talk about mine, but we all have coped different ways, whether that's through women or men or whatever whatever your thing is. Look, whatever your vice is, whatever, we don't want to talk about that. But when you get to a space that none of those things hurt work, and the hurt is to a place where it's just like I can't
Mm.
function, right? It's hard to get out of bed. It's hard to get through the day. I I pray and I feel like I'm praying over this series first and foremost,
Mhm.
y'all know, but I'm praying that everybody that gets behind the mic that I expose the audience to will just be like one after one, like, ooh, just
Yeah, I
yes.
believe it.
And I
I,
feel
I
like it's
definitely
gonna be
think
that.
that's going to be achieved within this season. I definitely do. I
Yeah.
thank you for sharing with us like the who Mr. Perry was. Definitely gives us a great view of who is
Yes, he
behind
did.
you, like as a person, because I definitely think our parents do shape us, whether that be good or bad. They do shape us to who we do become in the future. And I'm
Yeah.
so glad to see that you are replacing grief with gratitude, mainly because I mean, although grief we typically related to sadness, there's so much
Mm.
celebration and people us losing people. I always feel like when I lost my mom, I learned who I really was. So there's
Yeah.
so much to actually celebrate. in the death of someone, losing someone. And the beautiful part is that we can keep them alive through our work, through our expression, through our gratitude. So they're not
Mhm.
physically here, but they are spiritually everywhere, you know? So I love that.
Yeah. Well, you helped name the episode just so everybody knows. I think I'm gonna call this look, I think I'm gonna call this Grief to Gratitude. The culture is in
Yes.
crisis.
Yes.
I
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
I like that.
Love
I love
you. Of
you. I appreciate you for taking some time out,
course.
and I just pray that this gives people kind of the overall of what we're doing this month. And y'all hold on tight because we got some people
I
coming
can't
through.
wait.
All right,
Yes.
y'all. Well, we will see y'all
Yes,
later.
sir.
All right. Good night.
Welcome to the Exchange Place, the home for healing.